Wednesday, March 12th, Finance Committee meeting. Myself, Brian McGinnis, and Nicole Shimoni, calling this meeting to order at 5:30. Are there any announcements? All right, seeing none. Item 2, comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda. All right, seeing none, let's move to item 4, the director's report on monthly financials.
Good evening. If we could start with page 2, please. So looking at the cash position report for the year ended February 28th, 2025, we started the month with $24,471,388. We booked receipts of $2,983,344. We had expenditures of $1,627,662, and this left us with an ending cash balance across all funds of $25,827,069. Moving over to page 3, looking at the general fund financial highlights for February 28th. The fund is sitting at a net loss of $485,464. There's not too much to report in the general fund, just to say that the main revenues that we are booking are still EIT. We did mail out the real estate taxes in February. We are seeing a slight uptick in real estate taxes that have been sent to collections with Portnoy. Some of those are coming in fast and furious, and we did turn over more in collections at the end of 24 versus prior years. Normally, the amount that is uncollected is around $100K. We turned over $200K in uncollected property taxes. We did collect more in our, I'm sorry, do you have a question? Sure.
You saw my face. So I was wondering when I read this, is the collections, I know we changed our system last year. Do you think that the reason that we have a higher turnover is because there was some, just with the
Yeah,
switch?
I do believe that because we took this in-house, there was some confusion with that. We did do our best. We did send out letters in October telling people of balances that were open at that point in time. And we did receive a lot of phone calls and emails, but it was surprising to me that we turned over more in collections than, the averages that I've seen in prior years. So I hope that that trend does go down for this year. And we did, I just wanted to provide an update. We did book more in unpaid rental permits from 2023 and 2024. Year to date, we have collected $34,773. We're still $41,000 short on the unpaid amount of $75,000. I am working with Ramsey to, get more of these collected. We did run into an issue where there was a lot of envelopes that came back that weren't forwarded to people's proper addresses. So the department has been working to kind of work through that and, email and call people as needed. I do think we're going to have to come to some sort of a resolution on what we're going to do to collect this money. So we're working through that. That's a work in process. Moving over to page 15, looking at the special revenue funds, the liquid fuels, stream protection, and fire. The big thing I want to mention here is the liquid fuels fund, which the salt line item will be overspent. I have here 50,000, but I do have an update since this report was published. We are looking at an expense of $71,830. We have salt purchases that were made through a purchasing cohort with West Bradford Township, where we did not pay the proper price that was bid out. Right now, the fund does not have the money to pay these invoices, and we're not going to be able to pay them until April, until our annual allocation comes in. The concern that I have here is that this may have an impact on our audit with PennDOT. I'm looking into that issue, and then I'm hoping that my concern is not valid, but I do have an email into PennDOT to see how we can resolve this issue. Moving over to page 19, wastewater and parking. The funds are sitting at a net income through 2/28 of $3,344,733. The only issues I want to raise here are both in wastewater and parking that in wastewater, and I've talked about this last month, and I think it's going to be a theme for the year. With all of the capital purchases that are in the budget for this year, I do believe cash management is going to be the most crucial thing we can do with this fund. We do have a lot of uncollected sewer accounts. At 12/31, our Aqua aged receivables report had 764,000 in uncollected accounts. Our department is working furiously to try to get that down, but that's going to be an uphill battle that we're going to deal with in 2025. But the point being, we're going to have to definitely make sure that we're collecting as much as we can for this fund, and we're watching expenses and watching revenues. And then on the parking fund, this has also been a theme that I've talked about, is the parking garage revenue. It's still not meeting expectations. We still have not received our December 2024 remittance from InPark. It's my understanding that that is in process, but I still have not seen it. So again, it's going to be watching the revenues as they come in and, making modifications to the expenses as needed. But this has already taken place with Ramsey. She is aware of this, and we are making steps, to watch this revenue and watch the expenses that are associated with it. And then just looking ahead to March, our trial balance is due to our auditors by April 1st. We still have some entries that we are making. We are in good progress to make that date. The only thing I want to mention is that we may have a big liability that could come due on our trial balance this year. It's a new GASB pronouncement that has been since passed for years after 12/31 and has to do with compensated absences. We have always recognized a liability on the wastewater and parking funds, but that liability was due only to employees for their sick time that are due upon retirement if they're due a payout. And normally the liability that we calculated in the past was for the police department and our AFSCME employees. But this new pronouncement, you not only have to calculate the payout that is due upon retirement, but a liability for unused sick time that employees could use as potential time off before any retirement date. So I went through and I did the calculation, and we could be looking at a potential increase in what we have booked in the past. So I just wanted to put that out there, and so that's not a surprise when the auditors come in June or July to present. Are there any questions?
Yeah, the one question about the $5,000 check, could you explain that?
Sure. So if you looked at the check register, there was a $5,000 check that was made payable to myself, Barbara Leonti, and it said Borough of Westchester. This was for the police department for informant fees. And generally in the past, we would write that check to the police department for any one of the detectives down there, but we're not able to cash those checks because they need physical cash. So in order to, help them out, we made the check payable to myself, and I went with an officer to the bank to cash that check, and they were able to get the funds that they needed for the department.
Thank you. Any questions? Any public comment? Thank you, Barb. Let's move to old business. Approve the February 2025 meeting minutes. Any objections? Any public comment? New business. Item A, we're actually going to table that, correct, Sean, until May. And that's regarding the Christmas parade. So let's move to item B, motion to approve resolution to modify the fee schedule for dining platform parking fees. So
there was a memo attached to this item on the agenda, and the reason for this recommended change is that in the past we had charged $3,500 because we had done it on a per space basis, and the spaces downtown are marked with paint and single space meters, and we're converting now to multi-space meters, which are not going to have defined parking spaces. So we converted the $3,500 fee to a linear foot measurement. And the way that works out to roughly $160 per linear foot per year. And the applicants will qualify for dining platforms only in front of their own businesses from the edge of their properties to the edge of their properties. And we'll charge them by the linear footage they'll use rather than spaces.
And
So
that went up from $159.09 to $160 even.
I just rounded up.
I'm fine with that. Any comment, Ms. Shimon? Any public comment? All right, we call that 2-0 decision. Mr. Williams, you may approach here. This is a motion to approve the grant resolution for the Chester County Community Revitalization Program for the Gay Street Open Air Marketplace. This would be for phase 2 of the project.
Yeah. Hello, grant season is upon us. This is our first big deadline of the season. It's due late next week, as the slide shows. The grant ask of Chester County is $829,000 and change, 15% match requirement. We're going after, we expect total project cost to be about 1.1 million. Phase 1, we're rebidding. We hope to award next month, following a recommendation from the Public Works Committee. This is one of very few things funded through Chester County DCD, which is not federally funded. It's county bond funding, so we don't have any concerns about what's going on in DC. And yeah, application is due next Thursday. And as you know by now, standard procedures to get a resolution, which is the second page of that attachment, voted on and approved and included in the application.
Great. Any questions?
Yep, phase 1 will be executed then sometime in the fall as well, is the goal. And so we're going to use the big water blockers. I don't know the official name for them this year.
Yes. Yeah. The closure will look the same this summer as last summer.
Perfect. I mean, I'm all for it. Any public comment? All right, seeing none. Let's look at item D, motion to approve budget modification number 2 to allocate funding for the 2024 public safety and wastewater capital expenses.
So the first 2 items that are on this budget modification are for public safety. These items we did not have on hand at last month's budget modification. So we need to include these in the 2025 budget. Those 2 items are the $22,000 and the $36,249.15. They're both payable to 10/8. One is for police upfitting, and the other is for the fire department for their upfitting of their capital purchases. The last item on this modification is $22,000. This is a transfer to the fire fund for from the sewer fund. This was a need that Sean Mitchell recognized in his department for 2 vehicles. This was not originally included in his 2025 capital budget, but he saw a need in the department and realized that there were 2 vehicles within the fire department that could, be reused in wastewater. And in order to do this the proper way and to properly account for it, the sewer fund would need to make a transfer to the fire fund. And based on the blue book value of the 2 vehicles in question, Sean came up with a calculation of $22,000, and that's what the request before you tonight is for.
Any questions? Any public comment? All right, seeing none, we call that a 2-0 decision. And then motion to approve the following: H.A. DeHart and Son, that's for the litter truck. That's the upgrade, $34,010. Big Belly Solar, $14,409.60. I did not see that attachment. Do you have that attachment? Okay. Okay.
Question on that one. Is this extra trash cans, or are we replacing trash cans that need to be disposed of?
It's an upgrade. It's an upgrade to the the ones that we currently have.
But just 2 of them. So where are they going? Or, and what are happening with the 2 that are not so great? Or the older grade?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
So we're getting 2 new trash cans or 2 units. Does that mean like 4, like 2 trash and 2 recycling?
I don't have the answer for you, but I can get that for you by next week. I can get a breakdown from Don Edwards on where it's going. I don't have that specific information.
Okay.
And that includes software with that too.
Yes.
All right, fire flow services, $12,731.50. That's testing of the fire hose, ground ladders, and fire apparatus for the pump stations. USALCO, $12,540. That's phosphorus removal. And Colonial Parking, that's $48,475. That's the parking garage operating cost. Are there any questions about any of those items? Any public comment? All right, seeing none. E has been approved. Are there any other business? Any other business? We could adjourn here at 5:46 p.m. Eastern.